So we have our last AEW with no live fans that took place last night. We are now set up for the next two live shows, the last two live shows that are going to be taking place in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. I don't know when. I'm sure they're going to go back at times, but this is like the last show in a long run of all the shows that have taken place at Daly's Place over
the end of an era.
Yeah, the end of the COVID era, I guess you could call this.
We hope.
No, what?
We hope.
We hope. Yes, we hope. So overall, I thought this was a decent show. We did have some quirky things happen. But for the most part, I think they're really setting up for the show on the 26th and then on the 30th, which will be back live once again. Though they only announced 2 matches for Saturday for next week, and then only 3 for I guess they can announce the rest of them for the 30th, but they only announced 2 matches unless I am totally wrong and missed stuff.
I didn't even write down what matches they announced. We got Jungle Boy and Kenny, and Hangman and 10 against somebody. Powerhouse Hobbs.
Just
Hangman against Hobbs.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about the show?
I think that I could not find my notes, and I finally realized it was because I wrote the 8th instead of the 18th. But there we go. There was a lot of stuff in the first half of the show that I didn't like, and then by the end of the show, I really liked the show. So I guess that speaks well for the back half of the show.
Yeah, the back half of the show was fine. The women's match I don't think needed to go as long as it did. It didn't really move anything until after the match, but that was fine. And then, of course, the main event I thought was really well put together, and I'm digging the Frankie Kazarian character at this point.
Yeah, I like the Elite Hunter. I'm been an outspoken fan of Frankie Kazarian. I think he's great.
And then, there was one thing I wanted to touch on before we introduced the show, but now I can't remember what it was. So we will just move on and introduce the show. You are listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're watching this live, you can snag this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. If you listen to this as a podcast, we do this show live on Twitch and on YouTube. So if you follow the links in the show notes, it will bring you to those channels, so you can follow those channels, and it'll let you know when we schedule a live stream. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at That's Wrestling1. You can email us, Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can join our Discord. The link is in the show notes for that as well. Drop a review on your favorite podcast app of choice. It really helps out. And you can follow Trae at WrestleIsm on the Twitter. So I have back with me Trae Wisecarver, and we cannot figure out the video on his end today. So we have a nice little icon. And if you send me that entire picture, I'll put that in there so we can have a full-size picture of your drawing.
Oh. Yeah, well, that would be much preferable. Yeah, I'm irritated because I went through the trouble of putting a shirt on, and then the kept. It's the same problem because I've touched on my computer problems either on the podcast or just in our conversations. I was trying to use Windows on the computer that hates Windows again, and miraculously, I got everything to work today except for the webcam.
Yes. So we have that. There was one other thing. Yeah, and then for me, I am allergic to every plant on the planet. So my entire legs are just smeared with Benadryl cream, and my arm, and it's in my tattoo, so I hope it doesn't ruin any of my tattoos. That suck. But I'm pretty much allergic to everything, and I have no idea what I touched, so that's always fun. I took some Zyrtec. Hopefully that knocks some of it off.
Yeah, I'm not a big outdoor person, but I haven't had I've had poison ivy, but I haven't had it in years and years because I just don't go places where poison ivy is anymore.
Yeah, like I had an allergy test done like 15 years ago, and like they test you for like 60 different things, and I was allergic to 58 of them. And the only
Wow.
two things I was not allergic to that they tested for was cats and dogs.
Dude, my wife has been doing like an elimination diet for the past like year, trying to figure out everything that she's allergic to, and yeah, she's one of those people that's allergic to every food now. So
Oh, that's a bummer.
that's fun.
I'm not allergic to any foods, as far as I know. So
That's good.
That's a plus.
I'm like, I have like quote unquote allergies, but I'm the like when they ask you at the doctor, you allergic to any medications? Nope, never anything. Never had any kind of like real allergy. Anyhow, let's talk about AEW instead of our allergies. This is not Allergy Elite Wrestling.
All right, so we start off the night with the MMA match between Wardlow and Jake Hager. They went all out to make this feel like a legit, real MMA cage fight. They had the pre-match check. They had the second come out. They had their gloves on and their water bucket and all that fun, the spit bucket and all that fun stuff. Aubrey was the ref for this match. She was wearing a black top instead of the regular stripes with just the AEW logo on it. So they basically looked all legit, like this was going in. And actually, I thought the first probably 4 minutes was pretty good. It felt relatively like an MMA match because they were mostly like feeling each other out type of deal, and they were doing that to just circling and all that fun stuff. But then it got a little weird at times.
Dude, what the fuck was it? Okay, so it's MMA rules, but there's no judges. But essentially, it is a pro wrestling match under MMA rules, and it was too many gimmicks at once. It was a hat on a hat on a hat. Why in the year 2021 on national TV, why am I watching worked MMA in a hexagonal cage on a pro wrestling show? Now to be fair, from a production standpoint, the look of everything, the cage, the referees, everything that you talked about, all of that stuff was excellent. It was the fact that, okay, this would have been better as a pro wrestling match. It probably would have been better as an MMA fight, and it would have been better as a shoot-style wrestling match. This simultaneously somehow failed at all three, and the cage made it worse. Because, again, I like the presentation of the cage, but the cage just it beats you over the head with the fact that you are watching fake MMA as opposed to pro wrestling. I'm sorry, but it's 2021. I have seen real MMA fights, and this looks stupid.
Yes, it was not the greatest. So let's run down it. We started with... They circled, doing some feel-out strikes. Wardlow stuffed a takedown attempt, pushes Hager off into the cage, and he breaks off right away. Hager hits a jab and just like walks away, hits a body shot and walks away, hits a leg kick and walks away, and Wardlow is selling each of those. And then Hager goes for a takedown, and Wardlow just picks him up and throws him off. But then Hager comes right back in the middle and just takes him down, and he gets up and walks off like, yeah, I can take you down whenever I want. They start throwing hands. Wardlow dumps Hager to the ground. They do a little bit of ground and pound back and forth. Back to their feet, Wardlow hits some strikes and stumbles Hager, and Hager is saved by the bell in the first round. And then we have the split like you do in a normal MMA with the corners talking to each other and sitting down for the rest. Second round, they basically brawled, exchanged some strikes and submissions. Wardlow actually hits a Hurricanrana in the middle of this. And then they fight over position for a bit. Hager eventually gets on a head and arm choke, and Wardlow throws up the middle finger, but then he passes out, and that was the end of the match.
Not a moment too soon. And then to make this even more of a clown show, they did a post-match brawl in the cage.
Yeah, so post-match, like, it looked like Hager and Wardlow were gonna fist bump, and then Spears attacked Hager, and Jericho, who was Hager's second, comes in and fights with Spears, and then MJF comes out, he puts the Salt of the Earth armbar on Jericho, Dean Malenko gets in the cage and pulls off MJF, and MJF and Dean are staring each other down, and MJF just clocks Dean, and Dean takes a snap flatback bump. He put a lot of snap on that, if you didn't notice. And then they're like, "Oh, he just hit a 60-year-old man with Parkinson's." Like, that's one of like the most heel things you can possibly do.
Hitty MJ, that son of a bitch. I warned him. You put your hands on Dean Malenko, we're gonna have problems. That rotten. Tony's visceral disgust and hatred of MJF is like just so wonderful.
And
It's great.
And then Sammy ran out. He jumps over the cage, or one of the sides of the cage, gets in. He fights with Spears, and then the Pinnacle basically run off. And that was that. So
just a tiny thing with JR that popped me. It's Sammy's music played, and it starts with Sammy Guevara, and JR goes, "That's Sammy Guevara," and I just, I was like, and I've been getting into playing with mods on Fire Pro Wrestling World, and I've just worked out how I can put MP3s into the game to have actual interest music. So I've been having a lot of fun with interest music the past few days.
Sweet, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we had a backstage promo video with Kazarian, Penta, and Kingston all standing next to each other. And Kazarian cut an awesome promo. And I wrote this down word for word, so I didn't miss it. He says, "Matt Jackson and the Good Brothers, it's more like the righteous and the wicked. Is it not? Matt, oh, my oh-so-devout friend, Romans 12:19 tells us not to seek revenge, but to leave room for the wrath of God. It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Here's the thing. I don't always agree with the Lord, because tonight, vengeance is mine. Gallows and Anderson, you don't have to worry about that, because you're not righteous men. No, you're miscreants. You're men who lack any moral fiber. But that's okay, because I'm not a righteous man either. But I am a man who is hungry for revenge and thirsty for retribution. I am a man who is done being decent in indecent times. I am a man who will leave you in a pile of your own despair."
Love Frankie Kazarian. Big fan. This character, he's just... Yeah, I am all in on... I have always been an advocate of put Frankie Kazarian on my TV and let him wrestle. And if this character gets us more of that, I am for it.
Kingston says, "Boys, pray to your God and hope he takes your soul, because your asses are ours." And then Penta says, "Because, you know what? Zero Miedo."
What a trio.
I was hoping Alex Abrahantes would be in there to speak for Penta, because that is the best, and he has not been speaking for Penta lately, but he did come out with them for their match. So,
well, I think everybody understands Zero Miedo at this point.
Yes, but it's always good to have Alex there. At least he wasn't even standing there.
He is great, but I don't know. I feel like that's more of, and they kind of go back and forth at AEW, but I feel like that's more of a character heel thing, and Penta's kind of been cast in a babyface light lately, so
yeah, he's kind of back and forth. And then I wrote, "Man, that's a fast ring crew, taking down an entire octagon and setting up a ring in 5 minutes."
I had the thought, because they had the cage. If you didn't, they had the cage set up in the exact spot where they set it up, in front of the stage at Daly's place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and then the next segment, the ring was there.
Yep. So
obviously this was taped, but I enjoyed that as well.
That was a fast ring crew, man.
Very. That must have been the Ring Crew Express. You remember from Ring of Honor like 20 years ago?
No, I don't.
Somebody here remembers the Ring Crew Express done in Marcos.
All right, so next
early ROH.
Next up, we had the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, in a handicap match against Darby Allin by himself, and this was a fun match. I thought Darby gets the best of Ethan Page right away. He scrambles to tag out. He starts to get the better of Scorpio Sky, but then Ethan comes in to double team Darby. Darby hits a double coffin drop on both of them, or just kind of that springboard coffin drop that he does. Ethan goes back to his corner and gets tagged in. He runs over Darby with a massive shoulder tackle. Ethan looks like he wants to throw Darby into the front row like he did at Double or Nothing, but Darby puts on a rear naked choke and just rides him like a backpack. Page eventually runs him into the corner, and then he basically gives Darby a hip toss straight into the turnbuckle, and he's upside down when he hits it. Darby's beaten up throughout the commercial. They keep tagging in and out, giving Darby backbreakers, trying to one-up each other. No, I can do a better backbreaker than you. And Darby had to have eaten 6 backbreakers in a row.
Dude, I really, so many of the, we have for years just been abused with, makeshift tag teams that mean nothing. And then now we have they put these guys I know Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, watched them wrestle both for years. Never occurred to me them as a tag team. They're a fucking good tag team.
AEW is the land of good tag teams. It's insane. They find 2 singles wrestlers that they're just not going to work as singles. They put them together, and they come out with this massive tag team that is awesome. So it's insane.
Both of these guys can be single stars when there's a role for them.
Right.
This is a great way. That's a great. You want to have some career tag teams, obviously, but you also want to have guys who are in a tag team for a period of time in their career, So many of the greatest wrestlers, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, they were in a tag team for a period of time until the tag team reached its conclusion and they were ready to go on because there was a spot for them as a single star. Mm-hmm. So I love what AEW is doing with tag teams, even as far as Moxley having completed his program with Omega. What's he going to do now? Well, he's going to team with Eddie Kingston and go after the tag title. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. You and I are both, big fans of the booking in AEW, and but yeah, man, great. There really has been a revival, no pun intended, of tag team wrestling in AEW.
Where were we? They keep trying to hit backbreaker. They hit tons of backbreakers on Darby. Darby gets some energy, though, and he hits a code red on Sky. Ethan Page breaks it up, gives Darby a massive Uranagi. Sky and the ref are arguing, and while Ethan Page is watching this happen, Darby zip ties Ethan Page's feet together and throws him outside of the ring. Darby hits the flip over stunner and then a coffin drop on Scorpio Sky. You think he's going to get the win, but no, Page at least can stand up and pulls Darby out of the ring. He shimmies his way over to the corner, finds the toolbox under the ring, grabs a pair of cutters and cuts his zip ties. And then he just smashes Darby into the ring post. And then he makes his way back to his corner, gets tagged in. He sets Darby up on the top rope. Darby fights out, hits a headbutt on Ethan, but Sky prevents him from doing the coffin drop, which means he has now landed on the top turnbuckle, sitting on the top turnbuckle, facing out of the ring. Page comes in, grabs him, hits the Ego's edge, and the Men of the Year get the victory here.
By the way, that they've got it on the Chiron and the entrance video now. That is their official team name, Men of the Year.
Yep.
Anyway, this was great. It's 2-on-1, but it's a tag match, so they're getting heat on Darby, and he's trying to win, and then he's trying to hang in. They did the spot. Darby's been in this position before, because he did, like, almost 2 years ago on one of the early Dynamites. They did, like, it was supposed to be, like, him and Moxley against, I think, Jericho and Sammy, and the Inner Circle had jumped Moxley in the audience, so Darby was in a handicap match. I think he did the spot then, too, the part where he tags himself and makes a big babyface comeback. But the spot with the zip tie was so fucking awesome. And the best thing about it was, like, it made complete sense from, like, a logical standpoint. No part of it was contrived. Okay, Darby's told Sting, I have a plan. Then, of course, Darby thinks to have a fucking zip tie in his pocket and just wait until he's in the opportune moment and zip tie somebody's legs together. And then, like, he was, you know, compromised, but he was not incapacitated, so he was still able to make the save. And then he looks under the ring, and he doesn't get, there's not a ladder or a bunch of chairs or a table. There's a fucking toolbox from putting the ring together, and he looks in there and gets, I don't know, wire snips and snips the zip tie. Like, no part of this was, like, fake or contrived or stupid. It made perfect sense, and it was awesome.
All right. Then next up, we had Orange Cassidy versus Cezar Bononi. There was a short little inset promo from the Wingmen, basically saying if Orange Cassidy doesn't get with the program, they're going to have to beat the crap out of him. Essentially.
Yeah, so, yeah, the angle is that the Wingmen want to give Orange Cassidy a makeover, and he is not interested.
Yes. So, Cezar Bononi and Orange Cassidy. Cezar basically tosses Orange Cassidy around a little bit. He puts Orange Cassidy's hands in his pockets for him, and then tosses him into the outside, or into the outside, whatever, to the outside. Ryan Nemeth and Peter Avalon grab him, and Ryan Nemeth is spraying Orange Cassidy with spray tan, and Peter Avalon is putting gel in his hair, and then tosses him back into the ring. Cezar hits like two things and then throws him back out again, and Peter and Ryan are back again. Peter this time brushing his hair, and they're putting on Ryan's sparkly jacket onto Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy does the drop down trip that actually is a trip. Cezar goes to the outside. He does a cross body over the top rope, but Cezar catches him and just throws him back into the ring. And he's like playing to the crowd, like, look how strong I am. I just tossed that guy back into the ring. Chris Statlander distracts the ref. Trent and Chucky get into the ring, give Orange Cassidy his sunglasses, and then they launch him over the top rope onto the Wingmen. And then back into the ring they go. They're starting to fight. Ryan gets up on the ring apron, and Chuck Taylor distracts him. He looks away for a second. When he looks back, Orange Cassidy hits him with an orange punch. JD Drake runs into the ring. Orange Cassidy sidesteps him, and Chris Statlander is up on the other apron. She gives him the boop, and when he turns around, Orange Cassidy hits him with an orange punch. And then he hits Cezar Bononi with an orange punch and gets the pin. Post-match was hilarious because Peter Avalon jumps in. He's holding his fallen man in his arms, just screaming, "No! No!" And the best friends celebrate.
This was the other thing in the first hour that I wasn't into. I wrote jackets, interference, more interference, finish, blah.
Yeah. Hey, but at least the best friends, you know, basically outwitted the heels. That was kind of like the good part.
It was fine. This was it 2 stars. I did not detract anything from it. I did not add anything to it. It was precisely what I expected to be.
Yes. So the match was fine, and Orange Cassidy took down Cezar Bononi. So hopefully the Wingmen versus the Best Friends is over, but I have a feeling we're going to have a Best Friends versus Wingmen match at some point.
This group is like, why does JD Drake hang out with those guys? I don't.
No idea.
I love, I know there's a lot of stables, like factions, units, whatever in AEW, but that's kind of great and I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, yeah, he's like the total misfit of the group because, like, the other three are trying to be like pretty boys. They have all nice hair and he just has like a buzz cut and a beard.
Yeah, and he's also like the best wrestler in the group, which one guy, Peter Avalon's like a pretty good wrestler, and the guy, Dolph Ziggler's little brother, he's athletic as shit. Cezar is like, he's a good looking son bitch. He's got a lot of upside, but yeah, I don't know, just for the kind of wrestling I like, I'm all about some JD Drake. So yeah, this is, to me, I like this group, but it's like, to me, it's just JD Drake hanging out with a bunch of pretty boys, which I guess is the idea. It's funny. It's good.
JD Drake is like the Lila Hirsch of the men's division. He's he's like short and stocky and is just like a firecracker in a small package.
a fire plug.
Yeah. So we have that. Next up, we had Alex Marvez. He's backstage. He's trying to get a word with Jungle Boy when in come Kenny Omega, Don Callis, and Michael Nakazawa driving in a golf cart. And Kenny says, I can't tell if you're confused or just starstruck. The champ is here, but he's not wearing a custom suit, no sunglasses, no championship belt. And I guess you're probably wondering why. Well, last week, you butt your nose into my business. You embarrassed me. You tarnished my image. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do for you this week. I'm going to give you the chance to show you, so you can show how tough you are, numbnuts. And then Kenny, basically, he wants to fight Jungle Boy right now. He talks about, it looks like you've never been in a street fight. You've never even been punched in your entire life. And Kenny even offers the first shot. Jungle Boy says, well, I'd rather beat you next week for the title belt. And but he does start he takes his jacket off. He starts taking like his necklace and jewelry off, and Michael Nakazawa hits him from behind with his laptop, and we have a short brawl between Jungle Boy and Omega, and then Omega and Don Callis jump in the cart. Michael Nakazawa is about to jump on the cart, but Kenny pushes him back at Jungle Boy and just drives off, leaving Michael Nakazawa behind, and Omega yelling like the classic 80s cartoon bad guy when he gets foiled at the end. I'll get you next week, Jungle Boy.
So yeah, they started fighting, and then as soon as Jungle Boy started fighting back, they fucking got Omega back in that golf cart, got him out of there like he was the fucking president. It was great. And then just Omega, character-wise, to me, is the best he's ever been because he's finally who I have always seen him as. He's he's a fantastic wrestler who has some really brilliant ideas about the business, but he's a fucking annoying weirdo who, I would want to slap if I had to spend time around him. But you know what? As the heel world champion, that's great. That works for me in this day and age. So, yeah, this is the best Kenny Omega.
Yeah, I have to agree. Kenny has been doing great work since turning heel, and I love it, just like his erratic behavior.
Yeah, he. The thing is, Omega really is to a large degree. A lot of the things that someone like a Jim Cornette says about Kenny Omega is true. But he knows it, and he's self-aware, and that's the gimmick. And it's just, I guess it's enough levels of irony. It's more levels of irony than some people can stand. But I get it, and I think it's brilliant.
We go to commercial, and then back to Alex Marvez. He is now with Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy is talking about, they're talking about his history with Christian Cage. Hardy says, you know what happens when you break a contract? You face repercussions. I had a contract. I had a handshake, and that was a binding agreement. And now he has to pay, and that's why I keep dropping his ass every week. He was retired for 7 years, but then he came back, and if he keeps coming after me... And then Christian Cage runs in, but he is stopped by Private Party and crew. He's locked into a storage locker chain link fence area, and Hardy tells him, he needs to retire. He's like, here, I'll even fund it, and gives him a check. And Christian calls Hardy a piece of shit and to let me out. And then Hardy says, if you keep coming after me, I'm going to end your career permanently.
I wrote HFO Cage Christian. So this is a perfectly fine segment here.
Yeah. Got across what it needed to, and looked good. Next up, we had Cody Rhodes and the debuting Brock Anderson, son of Arn Anderson, versus Aaron Solow and QT Marshall. And Brock Anderson, he's 23 years old, but he looks 43 years old. This ain't no milkman situation. That is Arn Anderson's child. Like, it's without a doubt.
Be more obvious. He could not have looked more like a young Arn Anderson.
Brock and Aaron Solow started off. Brock works an arm wringer. We have some hair pulling from both sides. QT gets tagged in. He wants Cody, so Brock obliges. But first, he gives him a right hand and then tags in Cody. QT goes running, so Cody has to take out Aaron Solow after he gets tagged in. But he does do a dive on QT on the outside, but then Cody makes a mistake. He goes for an arm drag, but Aaron Solow grabs the ropes, so he doesn't get it. And then Solow and QT pounce and start beating on Cody in their corner, tagging in and out. Cody eventually fights out of the corner, and Brock gets the tag in, and he hits these awesome step-in shoulders in the corner, like, so fast. Like, it was awesome.
Dude, he's just got, like, the basics. He looked like a goddamn pro wrestler. He looked like, somebody who's gonna be a really, really freaking great pro wrestler.
He drops QT and then gives Solow a gut wrench suplex. QT gives Brock a spine buster and just stares daggers at Arn before he goes in for the cover. Only gets a 2 count.
I love that.
Yep.
Love that. QT giving Arn Anderson's son a spine buster right in front of him. And the crowd, this was, I get it was just the indie wrestlers or whatever, but like they knew the significance of that and reacted like it. I appreciated that.
They get the heat on Brock through the commercial. As soon as the commercial is over, Brock starts making his way back towards getting a tag, but Aaron Solow gets involved. The ref is distracted, dealing with getting Solow out of there, and doesn't see the tag that he makes to Cody, so Brock gets beat up some more. QT then teases a crossroads, but Brock quickly hits a DDT, crawls over, gets the tag to Cody. Solow gets tagged in as well, so those are the two legal men. Cody takes him out, then pulls QT into the ring, gives him a few shots, hits a flying head scissors, sends QT to the outside, and then turns back to Solow, puts on a figure 4, but Solow is quick to grab the ropes because he's very close. And then Solow is set up on the top ropes. QT tries to pull Cody off when he starts climbing, and he turns it into a destroyer. And then Solow hits a flying head kick. Brock breaks up that pin, and then Anderson is tagged in, and Cody takes out QT on the outside. Solow kicks Brock in the guts, but Brock takes him down, puts on a jackknife pin, and gets the victory.
Yeah, so Solow was going for a pedigree, which he has been doing on Dark for the last few weeks, and they don't call it anything, but it's a pedigree. But anyway, Brock turned it into a jackknife hold and pinned him. And Arn looked so touched and happy, and that made me smile.
I wonder what they're going to call it when they finally give it a name.
I was thinking there's got to be
the lineage. That's like a synonym for pedigree, right?
Genealogy.
Yeah.
the ancestry.
The genes. Or something, I don't know. Or bad genes, something like that.
Dominant genes.
Yeah, there you go. So this is a good showing from Brock. He looked good for his first match. Aaron Solo and QT Marshall were great. QT is just an awesome heel. So,
yes,
I think this match did everything it needed to do.
Indeed.
Next up, we have probably the best Jake the Snake promo that we have seen in months.
This was great.
This was awesome. It was just a videotaped. Were they in like a rundown building or something?
Yeah, like a empty warehouse, like burnt out or something.
Yeah, and I pretty much wrote word for word that what he says. Jake says, when you're this far away in wrestling, and he's holding up slightly open fingers, you might as well be 10,000 miles away. We had to fight our way back. All the doors were kicked open, the forbidden ones, where all the great prizes lie, where all the gold lies. I've had to reconnect with this man because, to tell you the truth, he has no patience. He waits for nothing. Sometimes you have to wait like a tiger and then pounce, but he doesn't want to do that. And doesn't have, I don't have a damn choice now, do I? What am I gonna do? Bitch slap him and tell him to stop? And then Lance Archer just goes, ah! And then walks off, and Jake flinches and is like, I gotta go.
I loved it. So Jake brought in Lance Archer, but Lance Archer is a complete psychopath, and Jake has completely lost control of him. And that's fantastic. I love it. I don't know, if you just thinking about, wrestling is just all like self-referential, and it's all about, we love this stuff because we get so much of it, and just the fact that, Jake Roberts wants to be a manager and he finds a fucking guy that he can't control. That's just phenomenal.
So yes, like I said, best Jake promo in like 8 months.
Yes.
Next up, we have JR's doing a sit down with Andrade, and he's saying, so Andrade, the idol, and Andrade is like, no, Andrade el idolo. It's like,
idolo, yeah.
And Andrade, he says he's a star and asks why he chose AEW, and Andrade says, there's many talents, many stars, but I am superstar. And JR says that everyone is talking about that the two most important belts in wrestling are the AEW World Title and the TNT Championships, even though they've only been around for 2 years. Those have to be on your radar. Andrade says, it is my next step. I deserve an opportunity for the TNT title and for the AEW World Title. It's my next step. And JR asks about why he came out with Vicky. He says that Vicky understands the business. She's very smart. And then he switches to Spanish. He says, I am third generation. She came up with Eddie Guerrero. She knows his family, which is full of even more wrestlers. The same holds true for my family. Back to English. He says, this is why we have a great connection. But you need to wait because Vicky and Andrade El Idolo have a surprise.
It's exactly what I said last week. Andrade, the connection. He's from a wrestling family. Vicky Guerrero has connection to the greatest family in Mexican wrestling, and that's their connection. I win. What do you think the prize is going to be? Think it's going to be Thea?
I was thinking it might be Chavo.
It for a guy to have as like a player coach type thing, I got no problem with bringing in Chavo Guerrero.
That's what I figured it was, because they brought up Eddie and whatnot and the family. So and he said that the family is full of a bunch of wrestlers. So
you know who else it could be? Shaw.
Who?
But Eddie and Vicky's daughter, Shaw Guerrero, she was in NXT for a while. She's married or was married, she's married to Aiden English.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Maybe. I guess we will see. Would I like it to be Thea? Yes. And then she can take over for Vicky. but I don't think that's in the cards at the moment, unfortunately. But anyways, let's see. We go back to Alex Marvez. He is all over the show getting the scoops. He is with Hangman in the Dark Order in their lair or their bar or whatever they want to call it, their room. And he's asking about the challenge from Taz, and Hangman says that he accepts that challenge to face Hobbs. And then Alex Marvez is asking Hangman about being the second ranked man in the title division, or in the division for the men, and what his thoughts are about Jungle Boy and Omega. And he just straight deflects and comments on John Silver. He'll be back soon. He's getting all healed up. 5. Hey, he's got a new jacket. It looks okay. and then he says, Evil Uno, yeah, you may have he gave one of his performance of his life last week, and even though he might have lost, you're still a champion in our eyes. And they all hype him up. Yep.
This was nice, man. Hangman was just with his friends and didn't want to talk about work. He just wanted to hang out with his friends and drink and put everybody over. And he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to think about the world championship right now. But we would assume that that over time he's gonna have to come to terms with himself and realize that championship is his destiny and he's got to go for it.
Jay in the chat over on our Twitch stream said that she was thinking it could be Saul as well for the Andrade Vicky surprise.
Yeah, I think she's like done some. I want to say that she was the ring announcer when they did the women's tag team tournament. I want to say, because it wasn't Dasha, because Dasha was in the tournament. I think it was Shaw Guerrero.
Okay. Let's see. We move on and to the women's match of the evening, and this was Julia Hart versus Penelope Ford. They made note that no, Julia is not related to the Harts in any way, though the connection to the Hart family is through Brian Pillman Jr., whose father did work out at the dungeon. So they went the 6 degrees of Hart.
Brian Pillman is a more credible Calgary guy than a lot of people they claim to be Calgary guys. So
we have no Kip Sabian coming out. What?
Hold on, didn't Pillman Jr. train with Lance Storm?
I believe so.
So that there's another Calgary connection. Anyway, just one more thing before you do the match. Julia Hart is this 19-year-old blonde cheerleader who is just so fucking cute, and she's green, but with the look and the presence and the selling, my God, she has got superstar potential.
Yeah, give her a couple of years and give her over to QT Marshall for a while. She should be pretty good. So we have Julia Hart and Penelope Ford. No Kip Sabian coming out with Penelope Ford, his wife. I also wrote here, not knowing what was happening later, no support from Miro either. So I'm like, she's out there by herself. They also mentioned this on commentary that Kip Sabian is not there with her. We have a little lock up at the beginning. Penelope does a headlock takeover. Julia turns it into a head scissors. Ford kips up out of it. Julia hits a drop kick and a cross body. It was a little bit weak. Penelope pulls Julia out onto the apron by her legs and then spins her and throws a forearm into her face. Hits the double knee drop on the apron. Back in the ring, we have some strikes and a kick to the back from Penelope. She hits her handspring back elbow, hits a running boot, and then a German suplex out of the corner for a 2 count. She hits some mounted strikes as well to Julia, and then when we come back from commercial, they are in a standing striking exchange, so this picture-in-picture didn't go all the way through the commercial break. It stopped 45 seconds in and then just went to a full commercial. But as soon as they come back, they're in a standing striking exchange. Julia is making a little bit of headway. Penelope takes her down with a lariat. Penelope catches a kick and just slaps Julia in the face, gives her a double knee gut buster, and then Ford goes up top, misses the moonsault, but then she does come pretty much right back and then submits Julia with the Indian Deathlock. And then she even refuses to let it go after the bell for quite a long time. The Varsity Blondes come in and kind of push her off to get that broken up.
That was a Muda lock, the death lock with the bridge.
Yep, it was like the last. It was like the last Chancery that Austin Aries did.
Yeah, kind of. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I saw it and thought Muda lock.
I thought last Chancery when I saw it. They're all like little variations of them all.
Yeah.
So I thought the match was fine. It didn't really need to go as long as it was. I mean, Penelope is pretty good, but Julia is super green. But I mean, they did cut out that hunk in the commercial as well. So really, the match probably only went about 5 minutes.
Yeah, 7:31. Not bad.
Post match though. Oh, go for it.
7:31, including the because I forgot this was a tape show. So yeah, you might be right. I don't know what they cut out.
Post-match, Miro comes out, so I had forecasted something has to happen. Miro comes out, and he asks, where's Kip Sabian? You know, she's out here 3-on-1. That's just not fair. But now I'm out here, the TNT champion, God's favorite champion. He says, don't you know this woman has had some hard times? Her wedding, her husband being injured. So what kind of man would I be if I just let... And then he steps into the ring. He attacks Griff Garrison. Brian Pillman attacks him. The referees run out, pull them apart. Miro breaks free and goes attacking Brian once again. And then they're getting pulled apart when they cut to the next segment.
Where do you think this is going? Because I think this is going to be Miro getting crazier and more out of control until CJ comes in to help channel his Machka, I guess.
Maybe. Could. I mean, CJ won't be available until like September 1st or 2nd, which is right before All Out, which is on the 5th, I believe.
Well, there you go.
So, I mean...
And see, I was...
Go for it.
And I was this we haven't gotten there yet, but this was the angle was for Miro versus Brian Pillman Jr. for the TNT title on the 30th.
Yes,
it was on the 30th. So yeah, that's the match, and I don't know what they're gonna do, obviously, but I just keep thinking, having like just seen the Brian Pillman Dark Side of the Ring, where Pillman Jr. just came off so incredibly likable and like somebody that everybody wants to see succeed. You could do something there to switch the belt, at least temporarily. And yeah. I think just putting my fantasy booker hat on, I could make that work within the bounds of the storyline that I just proposed, with Miro just kind of losing his mind.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen. Penelope could screw him. Griff could screw him. Kip Sabian, he's still on the shelf, but, you know, he could at least come out and trip him or something. You never know. Yeah. That could happen as well.
And they do still have, they have next week to do, but next week, they really, like, they need, and they did it a little bit with the Young Bucks match, but they really need to hit hard the Pillman Jr. story next week to and have Miro flip the corner. Like, as soon as they were ready to go with Miro, he was on, and he has been awesome. The God's favorite champion. Fuck, that's great. But just think about it. Miro can say some shit about, you know, Pillman's dad to like really heat up that thing. So I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with that match, but I could see it being something really, really cool.
Yeah, I love Miro's kind of thing. It's the takeoff of all the MMA fighters who thank God for allowing them to beat the shit out of the other guy.
Yes, he thanks God for making him the strongest and the best.
Yeah. So I love that kind of thing that he's doing with that. Let's see. Next up, we have Tony Schiavone backstage with Britt and Rebel. And he's like, oh, this is my, one of my favorite things to do each week is come back here to talk with Britt. But then Vicky comes in and says that all she can smell is raw onions and stale cheese sauce, and says that Britt has basically done nothing since winning the title, but she wants the title around her client's waist, Nyla Rose. And Britt basically blows her off, and Vicky says, well, I brought in Andrade, and Tony Khan owes me, so he allowed me to set up a match, and next week it's going to be Britt and Rebel versus Nyla Rose and me.
Okay, I will say that I liked Vicky explaining that Tony Khan owes her a favor because she brought Andrade into AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, that's awesome. But Britt and Reba against Nyla and Vicky, that sounds fucking atrocious. And so I was just kind of reading Twitter earlier, and I was seeing people complain about, the AEW women being booked as an afterthought here lately. And I gotta say, man, after this show really felt like the women were an afterthought. There was the Penelope Ford match that was just to set up the Miro angle. And then there was this angle that is leading to a match I really don't want to see, which is going to lead to another match that I don't want to see. Britt's title reign is not off to as promising a start as I might have hoped.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think probably the match is going to go Britt Baker and Nyla are never going to touch. Vicky is never going to get into the ring, and Nyla is just going to destroy Rebel.
You don't think they're going to put Rebel and Vicky in to do spots together?
No. God, I hope not.
I'm sure they'll do something, but God, that just sounds so horrible. And I just feel like whatever they're going to do, I'm not going to like it because I didn't like the premise to begin with.
Jay in the chat says, hot garbage.
Yeah. Now, what I did like was this FTR versus Ortiz and Santana video. This was phenomenal.
Right before moving on, though, just talking about Nyla Rose, I just saw a report that says she filed trademark for the ring name and the nickname The Native Beast. I don't know why that wasn't already trademarked. You should probably do that well ahead of before this, but
Before you're on national TV? But
yeah. I mean, it's not that expensive, so you might as well do it. If you're a wrestler, trademark your crap like right away. It's really not that difficult. All right, so yes, the promo that is up next, it was FTR Santana Ortiz video, basically both sides back and forth. They're talking themselves up, talking the opposite team down. FTR says they accomplished more in 6 months than Santana Ortiz did in 2 years. Santana Ortiz talk about, growing up in North Carolina is not the same as growing up in New York City. And Cash is talking about, did you ever live in a place where you didn't have running water or electricity? Did you live in a place where one of the walls was just plastic sheeting? And Santana's talking about, having to join gangs and didn't think he was going to live to 25. And then basically they just need to, and then they talk about, the tag titles, they're not going anywhere. And they basically need to destroy the Pinnacle first, and that they've been carrying this company on their backs, the Inner Circle, and all that fun stuff. So, decent video. Anything else to add on that one?
Again, this was so fucking good. Okay, some of in my normal life, I am a historian, and one of the things that I've always been fascinated by is the differences and similarities between urban and rural poor life, and that's exactly what this angle is. That you've got Ortiz and Santana that grew up on the streets of New York versus two guys from the backwoods of North Carolina. And it's, hey, we both had it hard, and like neither of them thinks that much of the other struggles, but now they're going to fight each other and test some of that stuff out. So just to me, like, I really liked that angle of it.
Yeah, that was good. Next up, we had a Nothing Jade promo once again. Apparently she's getting some sponsors. She's that bitch. Went nowhere.
God. Oh, this is it just getting heat by doing the same fucking thing every week?
At this point, I just don't care at all.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't dislike Mark Sterling, and I'm not against doing stuff with him, but it just makes this act more obnoxious.
Yeah, he is such a good sleazeball manager. He would be great if he had somebody good to manage.
And she, I think she has got something, but she needs to be presented a certain way, and nobody's figured it out yet.
Yes. She also probably needs to watch more wrestling to, understand wrestling. She's just, completely out of the... she doesn't even fit in with wrestling in general.
I said it immediately when I saw her, and I just, I'm more and more convinced, she is early Lex Luger for good and bad, with all the potential and all the drawback.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we had the main event of the evening, and this was Penta versus with Frankie Kazarian and Eddie Kingston versus Matt Jackson, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. Alex Abrahantes does come out with Penta. He just stays on the outside. He doesn't even factor into anything. He was just there. Dawn comes out with the Elite, and when the match gets started, Frankie just mauls Anderson right off the bat as soon as the bell rings. And then I wrote here also that Frankie has changed up his looks. He is coming out kind of with a hoodie on, and he went with the full length tights instead of the trunks that he had been wrestling in.
Yep. So has his own music now. Yep.
So good to see the kind of the change up in the appearance as well. He beats up Anderson, tags in Penta. Carl rakes the eyes so he can get a tag out to Matt. Matt gets into the ring still wearing his flat cap, his leather flat cap that he was wearing. Penta beats on Matt. Kingston get tags in. Kingston holds Matt in the camel clutch position so Penta can kick him in the face. Matt rolls under a back fist and tags in Gallows. Anderson gives Kingston a knee to the back from the outside when he's hitting the ropes. Gallows is the immovable object from Kingston's shoulder block attempts or shoulder tackle attempts. Kingston starts no-selling Matt Jackson's offensive strikes, and he starts hitting some of his own, hits a belly-to-belly overhead suplex, gets a tag out to Kazarian, and Kazarian runs wild. He goes nuts. He takes out everybody, ends up hitting a springboard leg drop on Anderson for a 2 count. Kazarian then puts on the crossface chicken wing, brings him down to the ground with the hooks in, but Gallo comes in and just stomps on him to break that up. Kaz kicks Gallows off the apron after he went back out, but turns around into a Carl Anderson spine buster. Penta and Matt. Penta gets tagged in. Matt Jackson gets tagged in. Penta takes Gallows off the apron as well as soon as he got back up onto the apron. He hits a dive on the Good Brothers. Back into the ring, he hits a DDT on Matt for a 2 count. We get some triple teaming on Matt. You get a package pile driver, then a backdrop, then Angel's Wings on Matt, and Gallows has to break up that pin. And he just throws Matt over his shoulder and carries him over to their side, and so Anderson can tag his limp body so he can get in. Penta is the legal man on the other side. He hits a thrust kick to the face for a 2 count. Penta wants the package pile driver, but Anderson gets out of it, gives Penta a neck breaker, double teaming on Penta from the Good Brothers. A top rope elbow from Matt off the top. That gets a 2 count. And then Frankie breaks up a magic killer, but eats a super kick from Matt. and then Kingston hits a half and half running boot, hits a half and half, and then Anderson hits a running boot on Kingston. Penta hits a backstabber on Anderson, and then Penta goes up top, but the referee is checking on Anderson. Nick Jackson runs out of the crowd, sprays the cold spray in Penta's face. Penta falls off the top rope, and then Carl Anderson goes up top and hits a super reverse cutter, and then pins Penta. So that was that match, and basically the end of it was the Elite celebrating up on the stage a little bit.
Yeah, just main thing, I love Eddie Kingston. He just, to me, represents everything beautiful about pro wrestling, because he looks like a fucking car mechanic, but then he's in here, like, fighting and whooping dudes' asses with King's Road shit. But yeah, this was really fun. You know, Penta made a big comeback and looked awesome, and then a bunch of shit happened, and then Nick Jackson with the cold spray, and then Anderson pinned Penta with the super stun gun, and that is the most significant win that Anderson or Gallows has gotten in AEW.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun match, and I'm curious where it goes from here. Obviously, Frankie is on his tear. We have Kingston on his path, and Penta, is he going to get back spun out into Death Triangle, and we kind of split away with this weird intermingling of teams?
Yeah, I kind of like it, because, like, you know, everybody's partner is out and they have a common enemy, so...
Yeah, the Elite have a lot of enemies at this point.
Yeah, well, that's great. And, did you see Omega and Moose?
I did not.
It was pretty good. I kind of thought, which, I don't know, it was, you know, in front of, like, just, it was at, they taped it at Daly's place, but it was just in front of, you know, the Dark Crew. Had a pretty good match. Moose had a match with Okada on, like, on a New Japan Ring of Honor show, like, 5 years ago. That was fucking awesome. This was not that, but it was a cool match. But and if you watch Being the Elite, you saw it this week. And on Being the Elite, it was even funnier because Matt and Nick were watching the match. You ready, Jeremy? Yeah, I'm ready, Max. They're calling each other Max and Jeremy and getting ready to make their Impact return. Mm-hmm. So the deal was that the Impact show was, you know, it taped at the studio in Nashville where they've been taping, but they booked Kenny and Moose. They were gonna have the match in Daly's place. So the Good Brothers couldn't interfere because the Good Brothers were in they had a street fight on the show with Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer. Mm-hmm. Right. More on that in just a second. But anyway, so the deal was Omega's alone and he gets in trouble. But then the Young Bucks return to Impact to help Kenny and to fuck Moose. And then the thing, dude, I have been giving Impact a try. And I try not to be too stuffy and old-fashioned about wrestling, but when motherfuckers teleport, that is one step too far for me. And yeah, because remember, the part of the deal was that the Good Brothers weren't there because they were in Nashville. But after that, Sami Callihan teleported from Nashville to fucking Jacksonville. And I'm sorry, like, that's just, every time I try to watch Impact, like, I like the show, I like the talent, I like the booking, but there's always, that company will never not be TNA, and there's always gonna be shit that's just, like, too much for me, as far as, like, what I can stand pro wrestling to be, and motherfuckers teleporting I cannot deal with. But anyhow, that's my review of, the Kenny Omega Moose Impact World Title match in the AEW arena.
Let's see. Something I just read right here. Ruby Riott was on a podcast, says she is not going to come back using the name Heidi Lovelace. She hated that name and doesn't want it. Yep. And she said she's hoping to keep the name Ruby and something else. She feels like it fits me, so she might change her name to Ruby something.
I had a thought, and I know you just said she hated the name Heidi Lovelace, but I was just thinking about playing with that. Ruby Hyde.
That would
be a cool name. Because, you know, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, and I don't know. Maybe I should tweet that at her and see if she likes it.
All right. Other than that, in other news, the 2042 AEW Women's Tag Team Champions have been born. Baby Mox and Baby Rhodes were born this week, 3 days apart.
Oh, yeah, I knew that Cody and Brandy's was born I knew because theirs was born first, and then Cody and Brandy's was born yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, because Renee, I finally subscribed to her YouTube channel, and I saw that she had posted that the baby had come. So yeah, good for them. All Cody and Brandy, of course, they named their daughter Liberty, and I just thought of if anybody watched My Name Is Earl, which if you haven't, you should, because that was a fantastic show. The character Liberty Washington from the Black Ladies of Wrestling. That was the first thing I thought of when I heard that Cody named his half-black daughter Liberty.
Something else announced 5 minutes ago. New Japan is coming to the United States August 14th for Resurgence. That is the name of the show that they're calling it, and my Twitter just barely refreshed and sent it down the list, so I don't know where. The LA Coliseum.
What Coliseum?
The LA Coliseum.
Well, that's awesome.
The Torch at the LA Coliseum. So, after an 18-month absence, New Japan will be in the U.S. And on the poster, they have a lot of the U.S.-based guys, including Jay White, John Moxley, and Filthy Tom, and Finn Juice. Yeah, so.
And Anderson and Gallows, who I have not seen it yet, but apparently on Strong, they returned to New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Finally. So, just the poster I'm looking at, we got Carl Fredericks, we got Ren Narita, we got Shooter, we got Finn Juice, Jay White, Moxley, Good Brothers, Filthy Tom, Darren Young, Fred Rosser, and Leo Rush, who is maybe not retiring, or they made the poster before, or whatever.
He's fulfilling commitments, but they might have I'm guessing they made the poster before he was injured. So he's already injured, but he said he would be fulfilling commitments, but he probably is not going. Well, it was just did he go up for surgery, or is it just shoulder injury? So, I mean, that's still, it's 2 months away. Could he make it?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought when he said he was filling out New Japan dates that he was just going to be in the Strong stuff that's already been taped. But anyhow, I had something else that I was going to say about so I was reading an Observer from a few weeks ago, and it just came up. The match on Strong, the tag match with Moxley and Nagata several weeks ago, that was supposed to be Moxley and Narita against, or Nagata and Narita against Moxley and Shooter, but Shooter was injured, so that was why we got Chris Dickinson in that match. But yeah, that would have been special. But yeah, Shooter apparently finally about to I don't know why, which there was COVID and whatever, but his excursion, he's been doing nothing, but apparently he's finally going to start working in Rev Pro, and also apparently in the US.
Yeah, should be a good one. Should be fun. I don't think I have anything else. So anything else you want to touch on AEW or New Japan wise before we wrap it up here?
No, man, I'm just looking at this poster and thinking about, because it looks like it's going to be their US-based talent mostly, but it's going to be, I think we're looking at a pay-per-view caliber show, because we do have, Moxley and Jay White, and then I don't know what they're going to book, but at some point I need John Moxley and Filthy Tom Lawler.
Yes, that'd be awesome. As far as New Japan goes, we have 2 matches to look out for. One on June 22nd. That is going to be for the Never Openweight 6-man. So Yoshihashi, Ishii, and Goto, the current champions, versus Dick Togo, Yujiro, and Evil. Don't think that's going to change hands, and that's a pretty crappy team. And then on the 23rd, we're going to have probably a banger of a match, and that is Roppongi 3K, Sho and Yo, who are the current champions, versus El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori. So those two matches, that match should be fun. So those are the...
Hold on, I was looking at results schedule instead of results, I think. I thought that something else was announced. Did I have a favorite? July 25th, Wrestle Grand Slam in the Tokyo Dome. And for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, we got Shingo and Kota Ibushi.
Yeah, we also have on the July 10th is going to be Taiji Ishimori challenging El Desperado for the Junior Heavyweight Junior Heavyweight Championship. So that's a summer struggle in Sapporo. So that's on the 10th. They also have a show on the 11th, and that is going to be the tag match, the heavyweight tag match, Sonata and Tetsuya Naito challenging the Dangerous Tekkers, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi. So we have pretty much scheduled a defense of every title at this point, going up to that July 25th show, having Kota Ibushi versus Shingo.
Awesome.
Yeah. I did look, just for giggles, I looked at the results of some of the recent Kurikan Hall shows, and boy, attendance is horrible. They had 200.
Watch everything. I who watch everything have not even watched those shows.
They had 247 on the June 15th show.
Oh,
that was god awful. And then 319 on the 16th, and 347 on the 14th. So yeah, it has not been going well. And then we have the Olympics are still going to be happening. And don't the Olympics start on the same day as the Tokyo Dome show? What day did the Olympics start?
I don't know. Surely not.
Olympics opening day, July 23rd. So the Olympics start on July 23rd. The Tokyo Dome's on the 25th.
How are they not? Is the Tokyo Dome not going to be used for the Olympics?
No, they have an Olympic stadium in Tokyo.
Oh, well, I just assumed, that's going to be...
Yeah.
I try to be Captain Positive when we're talking about New Japan business, but man, I don't know about this Tokyo Dome show. Now, Shingo and Ibushi, I'm fucking psyched for it, but yeah, I hope that this isn't a financial disaster.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have a new stadium in Tokyo now called the Japan National Stadium.
Oh boy.
Yep. So I guess we'll see. I think for they're basically going to quarantine the entire games, I guess. Unless you're tied to the Olympics. There's going to be no outside spectators and all that fun stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a horrible idea, and end horribly.
In a country where 87% of the people don't want the Olympics to happen.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
that's I feel like even our government wouldn't ignore 87% of the people.
Right. All right.
Anywho. That's a good note to end on.
Yeah. So thanks
we'll be back next Sunday.
Yes. So we'll be back next Sunday because, hey, it's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern. So I won't be going to bed before the show starts because I was pretty much conked out by 10:05 last night. So I watched this show. I finished a half hour before we started recording is when I watched the show. So thanks for watching and listening, everybody. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do the show live over on Twitch and on YouTube. You can follow the links in the show notes. You can also follow us on Twitter at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1. I pretty much always post when we're going live as well, so you can follow the links there. If you follow us on Twitter, comments, question, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can snag the RSS feed for the podcast over there if you can't find it in your app, but we're on like 80 plus different platforms at this point. You can follow Trae WrestleIsm on Twitter, and you can hang out in our Discord if you want to drop by. Also, drop us your review on your favorite podcast app of choice. Also, the charity event that Daryl is raising money for concussion research has been extended, so you can follow the link in the show notes for that if you'd like to donate to his 5K concussion research charity that he is doing, raising money for. So, all right. So for Trae Wisecarver, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you have been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.